2020 virtual observance. Actually, it's a hybrid, and this is the virtual section. I hope that those on you on St. Croix were able to pick up your vegetable seedlings earlier this afternoon. I would like to recognize with us our UVI president, Dr. Hall, and our dean of the School of Agriculture, Dr. Adamu. We will get started with our opening ceremony with a prayer by Pastor Stephen Marcel of the Church of God Holiness.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let us pray.
Good afternoon.
Our Father, we pause for a few moments to acknowledge you and to thank you for your blessings upon us. We thank you for World Food Day and for the ones you inspired to make this a reality that has touched so many lives over the years. Father, we know that this is directly in alignment with your will because we are our brother's keepers. And we thank you, Lord, that you give us the wisdom, the knowledge and the understanding to be able, through the knowledge you've given us, to provide and help others to provide for themselves. We thank you for UVI, this great institution, and the people who work there to make this a reality. So even as we acknowledge you today, and as we thank you today, we ask your continued wisdom, because as much as you've given us, as much as we know, we don't know it all, we don't have it all. And we depend on you for guidance and for strength. And may whatever we do, whatever the institution does, may it be a blessing, may it reach out into the homes of our people, and may it make a difference on a global level. So we thank you and we give you praise today. In Jesus' name, amen.
And thank you, Pastor Marcel. We will now have welcome remarks by Dr. Usman Adamu, Dean and Director of the School of Agriculture.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Crossman. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and welcome to our 2020 blended World Food Day programs. It is blended because of our today's global challenge of COVID-19. Some of our programs are virtual, just like the one that you are experiencing now, the opening ceremony and the educational programs. And some are in person, like our popular seedling distribution event that took place on the grounds of the Virgin Island Department of Agriculture from 1 to 3 p.m. this afternoon. I hope you will all be able to experience all of the programs and activity we plan for the day. As you all know, the World Food Day is an annual global celebration observed on October 16th in honor of the date of the founding of the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations in 1945. This day is being observed by many institutions, agencies, and organizations around the world that are concerned about and actively working on the issue of food security. This is an issue that is at the center of the mission of the School of Agriculture and UVI as a land-grant institution. We teach and conduct research and extension work in agriculture in every corner of the Virgin Islands. Let me force my remarks here and get to acknowledge our special guests that are here with us this afternoon, who will also give remarks on this important occasion, beginning with Dr. David Hall, the president of the University of the Virgin Islands, the Honorable Stacy Plaskett, U.S. Virgin Island delegate to Congress, Mr. Terrence Positive Nelson, Commissioner, USVI Department of Agriculture, and Mr. Stephen Marcel, Pastor, Church of God, Holiness and Academy. Thank you all for joining us today. We really do appreciate your participation and continuing support for this important event. As I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks, that food security is at the center of our work in the School of Agriculture. And this pandemic has made it abundantly clear that we have a lot of work to do in our research, teaching, and extension to help this territory become totally food secure. There is no question we are on unsustainable path of food dependency in the Virgin Islands, with more than 90% of the food we consume is coming from the outside. Our work in the School of Education, or School of Agriculture, will continue to provide concrete solutions to this issue through a combination of our research, teaching, and extension approaches and strategies. Every year, the World Food Day has a theme. For this year, the theme is Grow, Nourish, Sustain Together. My interpretation of this theme is that every community on this planet need to grow their food, the type of food that will nourish their bodies and sustain them as community. That's my simple interpretation of this theme. And I certainly believe that we can do it here in the Virgin Islands. But I would like to take us back to 2018 theme that set the goal of eradicating global hunger by the year 2030. We can go back to that theme and use it to set our goals for eradicating food dependency in the Virgin Islands by the year 2030. This is just 10 years from now, but I truly believe from the bottom of my heart that we can do it, that we can do it. However, this will require, or it will take a concerted effort and collective actions of individuals, political and educational institutions, and business communities to achieve this goal. If we come together and master our energy and resources, I can see us getting to this goal in less than 10 years from now. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for your participation. And have a great day. We hope to see you back here in person next year for this event on our campus of University of the Virgin Islands. Again, thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Adamo. We will now have remarks by our president, Dr. David Hall.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Crossman, for the introduction. Thanks to all of those in Cooperative Extension Services who take the lead in planning this event every year. To our new Dean of the School of Agriculture, Dr. Adamu, and to everyone else gathered. I hope that the physical aspect of the World Food Day has gone well and that individuals who've had a chance to participate have benefited from it. I am honored on behalf of the trustees, faculty, staff, and students to be a participant in this remote part of World Foods Day and to welcome all of you here and to tell you how delighted we are to host this event. And it is something that the university has hosted for quite a number of years. I remember fondly years when I was able to be on the St. Croix campus for World Food Day and to see not only the people gathered, but the various vendors and workshops and other things that we would be able to do. So this is not quite like that, but it is still important that we recognize this day and that we celebrate its importance. The points that I would like to make is, number one, we all have a stake in understanding why World Food Day is so important, because there are many things that we all believe in, work on, and try to create for our lives. But there is one thing that is common to all of us, and that is if we want to live, we have to have food, and we want to have quality food so that we can take care of ourselves. However, we must understand that as much as this is a common need, as much as it is critical to our survival, there are individuals within our midst and certainly throughout the world who are deprived of this fundamental source, and I would argue this fundamental right. And World Foods Day is in part here to bring to our attention that all of us have a role to play. All of us should have a sense of responsibility of ensuring that everyone has the necessary food and nutrition to take care of themselves and their family. Of course, we like to focus in on the Virgin Islands and our challenges here. And being an island, we have specific challenges. As our dean indicated, the issue of food security for the Virgin Islands becomes critical, not only when we have a crisis like the hurricanes or like the pandemic. It is a challenge all the time because we are importing, it is estimated around 93% of the food that we need. And that puts us in a very vulnerable situation. So we must have a goal as a territory to get to a point where we are not importing as much as we are now. And some would argue that we need to get to a point where we are growing everything we need. That may seem ambitious and overly optimistic, but it is what we should be striving to do. And I am proud that as a university, we are playing our role. CES and AES have been playing a role in this area for quite some time, ever since the university was made a land grant institution. I would argue, though, that our focus around this challenge has become much more intense recently because we have been able to create a school of agriculture where we will be able to offer academic programs, certificate programs, associate programs, bachelor's, and maybe someday in the future, even graduate programs in agriculture. The reason that is something that has come into existence is because the leaders of this territory understand how critical agriculture is, how critical food security is to the future of this territory. And thus they have invested in the university so that we can create the School of Agriculture. And so we're looking to Dean Adamu, we're looking to all of the others who will be a part of the School of Agriculture to be that resource for the territory as we try to not only prepare the future farmers of the Virgin Islands, but that we support those who presently exist, and that we diversify and modernize our understanding of agriculture production. And so I look forward to what will come out of the school. There is something else that's happening right now that I want to make everyone here aware of. And again, it relates to something that the university will play a role in if successful. There has been a bill entered into the legislature and passed the Economic Development Regulation and Agriculture Committee to create an agriculture plan for the territory. That bill has been passed on to the Rules Committee, and from there it will go to the full body. If approved by the legislature and signed by the governor, this will be the first time that there will be a legislatively mandated idea that the territory creates a plan for agriculture, which can address the issues that we are talking about here today: food security, agricultural productivity, sustainable agriculture, and all of those other issues that the territory has certainly known about, cared about, but we have not been able to marshal our vision and resources around it. What is encouraging to me is that it is a plan as it is presently, or the bill as it is presently written, asks that the Department of Agriculture and the University of the Virgin Islands take the lead in developing this plan. It also calls for the Dean of the School of Agriculture to be on the advisory committee. It calls for the President of the university to be on the advisory committee, along with other individuals. So I am hoping that this legislation does become a reality, and I look forward to the university playing a critical role in developing a comprehensive, robust plan for agricultural productivity in the territory. And I believe with that measurable, accountable, and well-resourced plan, we can make the vision of food security and agricultural productivity a reality in the territory. The last thing I would like to say is that though it is wonderful to have a School of Agriculture, it will be wonderful to have a comprehensive agricultural plan. The reality is each of us have to play a role in this goal. World Food Day is not only to remind us of our global and collective responsibilities, but it is here to also remind us of our individual responsibility. Each of us have the capacity to grow things, even if it's just in our backyards, even if it's just a small little container on our front porch. but all of us can play a role in developing and producing the things that we want to consume. And I hope that that message stays always in our vision around the School of Agriculture, around World Food Day, and around what we do as a university. So I want to thank all of you for being here. I am delighted that this tradition continues even when our circumstances and conditions change. And to me, that is the real evidence of a resilient organization or a resilient group of individuals, that no matter what the challenge comes, that our values are so ingrained within us that we will continue to move forward despite the challenge, despite the circumstance and situations. That is what I've seen in this university collectively, and that is clearly what we are all seeing by the consistency of having World Food Day even during a pandemic. So congratulations to our organizers, and thanks to all of you for making time to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Hall, for your remarks and sharing your commitment and that of the University of the Virgin Islands to agriculture development and food security in the Virgin Islands. We will now have remarks by the Honorable Stacy Plaskett, our delegate to Congress.
Hi, and happy World Food Day. Today, we celebrate diverse food systems around the world, built on resiliency and sustainable agricultural models. We also stand in solidarity in helping our most vulnerable populations sustain a reliable food source. Just 5 days ago, the Washington Report released an article stating that the US can face a shortage of 8 billion meals in the next 12 months. As we speak, 821 million people around the world do not have enough food they need to live an active and healthy life. Food is a basic necessity that feeds our soul, fuels our bodies, affects the environment, and impacts just about every part of our lives. As a result, policymakers must treat this in the most important manner. As most of you know, I'm proud to serve as the subcommittee chair for biotechnology, horticulture, and research on the House Agricultural Committee. In this role, I have heavily advocated for underserved farmers and underserved communities that lack access to affordable and nutritious foods. COVID-19 has brought to the forefront new and existing challenges in American food systems. Never in recent history has there been such a high demand on the nation's food sources, from farmers to food service providers, retailers, community food banks. Knowing that our food sources are safe, reliable, affordable, and nutritious is critical to sustaining life. The fresh produce sector was drastically impacted by the quick shutdown of the food service industry, including bars, restaurants, as well as schools and universities. These food service outlets represented an estimated 40% of all produce consumed in the US. Farmers struggled to sell their products before maturity. Members of Congress acted, especially my committee, the Agriculture Committee, to pass the Families First Coronavirus Act, the CARES Act, and the HEROES Act for nationwide food shortages. Both bills provided additional funding to TFAP, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, to reduce the glut of products through commodity purchases and get food to needy families. It also provided authority to the US Department of Agriculture to conduct additional commodity purchases for the pandemic EBT program. Following passage of these two bills, USDA announced the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. The program gave $3 billion in new purchases and distribution program aimed at connecting hungry families with excessive perishable product that was on the market. All three of these programs working together address the high demand for communities in need by creating greater pipelines from farm to table. It's no secret that the Virgin Islands, once the breadbasket of the Caribbean, our roots have been in agriculture, trading, and exports. Job loss and reduced income have contributed to increased poverty rate and a decline in affordable, nutritious meals at home here in the Virgin Islands. Particularly for St. Croix, I have advocated to appropriate full authorized funding levels for the micro grants for food security at $10 million. This funding will increase the quantity and quality of locally grown food and food insecure communities like the Virgin Islands. It's important for territories. It offers the types of investment we need in locally grown food through non-competitive grants. In addition to these non-competitive grants, I continue to advocate for government funding that does not include a matching requirement. With increasingly harsh weather patterns, we must look towards increasing resiliency and mitigating risk throughout greater research, education, and extension initiatives. Research initiatives such as the Specialty Crop Research Initiative and the Organic Agricultural Initiative work to improve crop varieties and soil health. Even further, the Natural Resources and Sustainable Agricultural System Program work across the country to develop solutions for farmers and ranchers. We also look to a more resilient agriculture by the way of biotechnology. Self-sufficiency in production can increase through agricultural bio-initiations and innovations done responsibly. Under my subcommittee jurisdiction, I have the opportunity to discuss policies that bring plant biotechnology to the 21st century by removing duplicative and antiquated processes in order to facilitate the development and availability of these technologies through a transparent, consistent, science-based, and risk-appropriate regulatory system. Agricultural innovations can look towards increasing agricultural productivity and sustainability, improve the nutrition and quality of crops, combat pests and disease, and enhance food safety. The time to modernize our local and regional food systems and address the economic impacts is long overdue. COVID-19 has just made this even more evident. It's time for us to retool our agriculture, refocus our food security systems. It's time to act now. And I want to thank you all for having World Food Day, which is a prime opportunity for us to discuss this and work towards that change. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Plaskett, for your remarks. We will now have remarks by Terrence Positive Nelson, Commissioner of the Virgin Islands Department of Agriculture.
Good day. I'm your Virgin Islands Department of Agriculture Commissioner, Positive T.A. Nelson, here in observation of World Food Day, observed October 16th of every year. This year, World Food Day in the Virgin Islands is today, October 18th, when we join the rest of the world in observing the need to have sustainable food sources, the need to have food security. In today's world, America, the Virgin Islands is part of, we're in the upper 15 percentile of food availability, but there is hunger in the world. There is hunger in America. Here in the territory, being an island nation, is very important that we source as much of our food locally as possible. I'm encouraging you to participate in backyard farming. I'm encouraging you to have seed exchange. I'm encouraging you to think about preserving your food. It's so important in today's world, and COVID has proven to us how necessary it is. I congratulate the University of the Virgin Islands and all of your experts, all of the employees at the Department of Agriculture for helping to facilitate these thousands of seedlings, over 6,000 seedlings that will be given out today during our World Food Day observation. Again, I'm your Commissioner of Agriculture, Positive T.A. Nelson, telling you that food is an inflexible commodity. And it is important that we source food as close to us as possible. Thank you so very much. Please do enjoy World Food Day and the opportunity to help to feed the world.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. And before we have a closing prayer, I would like to thank all of the persons present who gave remarks, and I ask those in attendance that you take note of what was said by each of the speakers. We'll now have closing remarks by Pastor Marcel.
That's the closing prayer, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Thank you, Father. We give you praise. We give you glory. We are so happy for what you have done for us and what's been done in our community by the men you have given the skills and the talents to be able to make a difference in our world today. So we give you thanks today. And again, we pray that you will provide everything that we need to make it happen. I pray for your blessings upon us. I pray for your blessings upon all those who are involved, our delegate to Congress, our commissioner, the UVI, and all the workers at UVI and all those who are involved in this worthy cause. So we give you praise, and we pray and that you continue to provide everything that we need so that we can make the greatest difference we can in our world today. We thank you for all things, and we go with your grace in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Marcel. That brings us to the end of the opening ceremony. Thanks to everyone for participating. We will now transition over to our educational workshops.
And before we do transition into our educational workshop, please enjoy this brief selection that speaks about agriculture, sang by Kiosha Quinn.
Agriculture for my people. I wasn't here 40 years ago, so what I'm saying, my parents told me so. The food that we eat used to grow right here. These same foods that we have in the fair. But like things change, nobody care about that. What we eat them now, make we sick and fat. I'm not knocking McDonald's and Kentucky. I just want them to serve something more healthy. They should come down here where the weather is clear. My grandmother been eating this for long. She is over 40 and still growing strong. Smelly fresh produce growing through the air. My grandmother been eating this from long. She is over 40 and still growing strong, 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 strong. Agriculture for my people. I know some people don't like the farming, and I understand why they complaining. You're out in the sun digging and planting while some of the desk in air conditioning. But I just want you to imagine when they out to lunch, your food they eating, and when the doctor calls them in on the ass, he say, hey, I won't see you in a while. You go grow your aloe, you go grow some nutmeg, and I'm sure if you really want, you can raise some chicken for egg. I insist we support agriculture. If you want to have, you can have a brighter future. Agriculture for my people. I wasn't here 40 years ago, so what I'm saying, my parents told me so. The food that we eat used to grow right here. These same foods that we have in the fair. But like things change, nobody care about that. What we eat them now, make we sick and fat. I'm not knocking McDonald's and Kentucky. I just want them to serve something more healthy. They should come down here where the weather is clear. My grandmother been eating this for long. She is over 40 and still growing strong. Smelly fresh produce growing through the air. My grandmother been eating we support agriculture. If you want to have, you can have a brighter future. Agriculture for my people.
Good afternoon, and that was indeed a wonderful selection. At this time, again, welcome to our educational workshop, a portion of World Food Day. We thank you so much for sticking with us and continuing to show that World Food Day is definitely important, and that we're highlighting hunger and how we can do our part to eradicate hunger is indeed important. So I thank you for that. We're going to go into, as I said, the educational workshops. With that, that means that if you are here, we want you to register so that you would qualify for additional seedlings. If you would go to the chat and just type private to Ray J. Joseph. If you go to the chat, you'll be able to send a private text to Ray J. Joseph and just give him your email address and your phone number, and you will be registered for the workshops that are coming up, and we will then contact you and let you know where and when to pick up your additional seedlings. So please, very important, send a private chat. If you look on your screen, to the bottom should have a place that says chat. You click on it, look for his name in the drop-down arrow, and then you just send him that information and we will register you. Thank you. So our first educational workshop will be done by Mr. Errol Chichester, the former Deputy Commissioner of the VI Agriculture Department. And so at this time, we will welcome Mr. Chichester.
Any kind of avocado. And good afternoon and welcome to the World Food Day Activity 2020. And today's presentation will be on avocado production. And I know if you in the audience are like me, I think you all will love avocado because I love avocado, any kind of avocado. And sometimes I just get a slice of avocado and just eat it like that. And avocado is a lovely fruit, high in protein and other nutrients. So today's workshop, as I indicated, will be on avocado production. Now, avocado, also known as scientifically known as Persia americana, and the common names of avocado is zabuca, alligator pear, or in Spanish, some people call it aguacate. Now, avocado belongs to the family Laurelaceae, which includes cinnamon, camphor, and bay leaf. And in terms of origin, avocado is out of Guatemala and Mexico. Now, avocado is divided into 3 horticultural groups or races. And those races are based on the fruit size, is based on the shape, the quality, the development period, and the season of maturity of the fruit. And these races include the West Indian, Guatemalan, and Mexican races. And some of the common varieties or cultivars that we have around that many of us grow include Pollack, Wilson Popino, Marcus Pumpkin, which is a very large avocado, sometimes comes up to like 4 to 5 pounds, Lula, Simmons, Semel 43, Melendez, Candelaria, and Russell. Those are very few of the types of avocado that one can purchase or that most of us have planted in our orchard around here. And these are just a sample of what some of the avocado would look like in terms of shape and size and that type of stuff. And in terms of soil, avocado grows on a wide range of soils. However, though, it does not thrive on soil with poor drainage or heavy clay. So those of us who have heavy clay soils, we might want to reconsider planting avocado in those particular spots. It does not tolerate flooding or saturated soils. And many of you might have observed when you get significant amount of precipitation, a lot of rainfall, and the water settles in a particular area where you have avocado, many times the avocado decline and eventually dies. Avocado prefer a well-drained, deep, fertile soil that is medium textured. And in terms of pH, it prefers a pH range from 5.5 to 6.5, but it also does well on high pH calcareous soil. And for those of you who live in areas that have high pH soils, you would have noticed that avocado do very well. And a good example is in the Machichal area where the pH is very high. You have a lot of caliche soil. Avocado does well in there. Also in the Sion Farm area, the soil is calcareous in nature, and avocado does very excellent in those particular areas. So while avocado prefer a well-drained fertile soil, it will adapt to and do very well on our high pH calcareous soils. In terms of propagation, avocado varieties do not propagate through to seed, from seed. For example, if you take 10 seeds from one avocado tree and plant those 10 seeds, you will get 10 different types of avocados. So while some people prefer to plant the seeds, it's not highly recommended, but you could get a quality avocado from planting from seed, and likewise, you could get a very poor variety or poor fruit planting from seed. So planting from seed, you don't know what you're going to get. It doesn't guarantee you're going to get the same avocado as the parent plant. Thus, avocado should be propagated vegetatively. If you want to get the same fruit that you ate or the same fruit that you get from your neighbor or friend, you should propagate it vegetatively by budding or grafting. And young trees may be grafted when they are about pencil size in diameter, and mature trees, established trees already that have poor quality fruit, you could cut back those trees, allow them to send small branches, and what we call it top walking, you could change the cultivator of a particular avocado. Again, by cutting back a mature tree that maybe 6, 8, 10 inches in diameter, the trunk size that is, and you could cut back that tree about 3 to 4 feet, allow it to send up small branches, and then those small branches, you could graft and change the variety to a more desired variety of avocado. You could also put 3 or 4 different types of avocado on the same tree if you so choose. All right? Now, one of some of the benefits of grafted trees is that trees produce fruits that are identical to the parent plant. So if you obtain a piece from a tree that bears a long avocado fruits that are 2 or 3 pounds in size, that's the same fruit you're going to get when you do grafting. Grafted trees also produce earlier. There's early production where in 3 to 5 years you could get fruits, and because of the smaller size trees, it makes it easier to harvest the fruits. Whereas non-grafted tree, the fruits varies. If you plant 10 seeds as I indicated, you can get 10 different type of avocado, and it takes much longer for the plants to produce. It takes up to 8 to 12 years to produce fruit, and because you have a larger size tree, it makes it a little harder to harvest. So there's some benefits to planting grafted trees, and the primary thing is that you get exactly identical fruit to the parent plant and what you desire. In terms of propagation, many of you might have done this type of propagation where you put toothpick in a avocado seed. And what I want you to remember here in propagation, the pointed part of the avocado seeds must be upward. The flat base should be on the lower portion. And it would take at least 2 to 4 weeks for avocado seeds to germinate. I prefer though to plant in potting mix or soil as opposed to planting in water. When you're planting in water, you get very fragile roots, and I prefer to have the plant directly in a pot, and this is what you would, a young avocado plant will end up looking like, which in about 3 to 4 months or maybe sooner. It all depends on how well and how active the plant is growing, though that plant can be grafted to the desired variety. Planting procedure. When planting trees, first of all, too many of us have plant trees too closely. When the trees are small, it seems as though we have ample space, but it looks good, but it's not very good because avocado need at least 20 to 25 feet in terms of space. So make sure you have at least that amount of space, and you space your trees about 20 to 25 feet. And in terms of planting, the first thing you want to do is make a planting hole just as deep as the root ball. So if you have a 1 gallon pot and the soil in that pot is 6 inches, you want to make the hole 6 inches deep, and you want to make the hole 2 to 3 times wider. Wider is always better. If you have the energy and the strength and the endurance to make the hole 5, 6, 7 times wider, please do so, because wider is always better. Then, please don't leave the pot on. Many of us just cut the bottom of the pot and then plant the tree in the pot. We highly recommend that you remove the plant from the pot before you plant the plant. Loosen the roots. If it's matted and girdling, many times you remove a plant from a pot and you see lots of roots down to the bottom, or the roots are going around in circles around the edge of the pot. You want to either get a knife, cut along 4 sides of the root ball, or even take your hands and prise the root open and loosen the roots and orient the roots outward, because that's how roots go outward. If you don't do that, the roots will continue to go in a circle and the plant would not do very well. Then you want to place the plant in the planting hole that you have dug, and the root ball should be level to the hole. You shouldn't bury the trunk. No soil should be up against the trunk. You want the root ball to be level to the hole that you have dug. Then you want to backfill with the soil dug from the hole. And again, I want to repeat, backfill with the hole with the soil dug from the hole. You don't want to amend the soil or add anything to the soil. And you want to stake your plant if need be. And sometimes we make a berm or a basin around the plant, especially if you're watering by hand, so that to allow the water to just stay within the confines of that berm and percolate in the root area. And you want to water immediately after planting. Now, some of the dislikes of avocado is very sensitive to salt. So those of you who live along the seashore, that would be a problem for you to plant avocado. It's also sensitive to wind and drought. And windbreaks will reduce flower and fruit drop and defoliation. So those of you, even if you live around the seaside, you could plant windbreaks, plants that grows very vigorously, plants that give you a dense foliage that would break the wind or provide a barrier for the plants that you have planted in that particular area. Even those of you who live on hilltops, and you may not be close to the sea, but the wind is very, very not good. It's not good at all for avocado. And some of the symptoms that you would see with salt, wind, and drought is a brown area around the edge of the leaf, all the way from one end to the next, all the way around the edge of the leaf. Avocado also do not tolerate wet feet. As a result, we recommend, if you have a slope area or a slight incline, that you plant the avocado in those particular areas if possible. Again, water settling at the base of avocado is very, very not good where avocado is concerned. Avocado are shallow rooted. The roots are very shallow. You want to, and as a result, you get competition from weeds. So weeds should be maintained to prevent competition from water and nutrients, especially during the dry spell. During the dry spell, water that the avocado plant should be taken up. If you have a lot of weeds, those weeds will compete for the nutrients. You want to control weeds by mulching, mowing, or even by the use of herbicides. Avocado requires no frequent irrigation than many other fruit trees. Young trees should be watered at least 3 times per week, and adequate moisture, especially during the flowering and fruiting season, should be more frequent to prevent excessive fruit drop, especially during dry periods. Just like anything else, humans consume food and they get nutrients from those food. Similarly, plants are living organisms, living entities, and they too require certain nutrients to grow and to produce properly. A general purpose fertilizer of about 1/4 pound of 10-10-10 fertilizer is recommended 3 times during the first year for young plants. And for bearing trees, fertilizer containing a reduced phosphorus, such as a 10-4-10, applied at a rate of 3 to 4 pounds in 2 to 3 applications is preferred. And again, for those of us who are not very familiar with the fertilizer label, the middle number is phosphorus. So here, the 4 in this analysis of 10-4-10 is the phosphorus, and you want to get a fertilizer with that type of formulation for bearing trees. In terms of pollination, the number of fruits that develop and mature is small compared to the number of flowers in a tree. And I know many of us have seen avocado trees loaded with flowers, left and right, top and bottom, and only get a few fruits. And that's how avocados are. The cultivar, they differ in productivity and regularity of bearing. You have some avocado that bear profusely every year, some that bear ever so often, off and on. And all that goes back to the type of flowers that the avocado have. And we'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. But the flowers in avocado are perfect. They have both male and female parts within the same flower. However, avocado flowering have a very odd behavior. And that is they perform in such a way that self-pollination is minimal within a given tree or given cultivar. Now here is how avocado flowers work. Each flower opens twice, as opposed to most flowering plant where the flower only opens once. Avocado flower opens twice and is closed in between. The first time it functions, the flower functions as a female, and the second time as a male. All avocado cultivars fall into one of 2 categories designated A and B type based on the flowering type. Now, it is recommended planting both A and B type to ensure high yield, and I'll show you why in the next slide coming up. Again, in terms of pollinators, pollinators include bees, thrips, flies, other insects, and wind. Those are the entities, insects, and conditions that facilitate pollinating in avocado. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier in this slide, we'll show you why it is recommended that you plant 2 types, A and B type. Here you will see that type A on the top right and left-hand corner, the female flower opens in the morning, and down to in the middle section, you see the B flower, the male flowers open on the second day in the morning. So if you will plant an A and B type, you will have flowering of the female flowers will be open in the morning, and the male flowers of the B type will be open in the morning. If you plant, and similarly, if you look at the B type on the first slide, in the first section, the female flowers open on day 1, that's the B type. And if you check down to the bottom, the A type, the male flowers open in the afternoon time. So those 2 will correspond. And down to the bottom, give you an idea as to what we're looking for. We have A and B type. In the morning, the female flowers of the A type is open, and the male the male flower, the B type, is open in the morning. And on the other side in the afternoon, you have the male plant, the male flower of the A type opening, and on the B type, you have the female flower open in the afternoon time. So yes, while the avocado flower has both is a perfect flower. It has both male and female within the same flower. They are not open at the same time, and hence the recommendation that if you're going to plant avocado, it is preferred that you plant an A types and B types. And quickly, here is a list of A and B types that you would select from, okay? Now, what affects avocado yield? Avocado yield is affected by pollination, like we just mentioned, the A and B type. That if you have an A and B type, the yield will be high. If you have just one type, the yield will not be so high as expected. Weather conditions, wind, drought, rain, and disease also affect yield, and the tree's health and the amount of irrigation you provide. Because especially during the dry time of year, the fruits need water to develop. And if you are not making water or irrigation available to the plant when it's in dire need, especially during drought, then what's going to happen is that the fruits will drop and the yield will be very minimal. In terms of pests, a few pests affect avocado, but they do not limit production significantly. And this disease called anthracnose is a brown to black spot on fruits, which may enter the flesh as the fruit matures, and it will reduce the marketability of the fruit. But this is not very common. Yes, we have seen a couple of trees that have this condition, but it's not something that's very common. And as the fruit ripes, the brown spot gets worse. Another pest of avocado is avocado scab, which is a dark brown spot confined to the outer skin of the fruit. And some of you might have seen this condition. Another pest we have is the red-banded thrips. And you can see the red band and the thrips on the right-hand side. That's the damage that it causes on the foliage. And down to the bottom, you can see how the fruits are scarred by the rasping, feeding condition of the thrips. Another common insect we have had around for about 15 to 20 years is lace bugs. And again, down to the bottom, you can see the damage that it causes on the foliage, on the leaves. And I know many of you have seen that and want to know what's wrong with your avocado, but that's on the top right-hand corner, that's what the insect look like. And then on the left is just maybe about 100 or so of those insects gathered in a pile, okay? So this one is very, very, very common on St. Croix, at least. I don't know about St. Thomas, but it's very common on St. Croix. Termites, again, is also another pest that affects avocado. And here's a termite nest, and they love avocado, termites do. And we have stem borers, and sometimes you go to your tree and you see a dead branch, and eventually, if that branch has fruits, the weight of the fruit just causes the branch to just fall, and that's because it's caused by a stem borer that gets into the stem, and just as though they have a saw on the mouth, and they just cut the branches. And on the right-hand corner, you could see the slide where the branch is just cut in two, and they do a very good job at damaging the avocado branches. In terms of harvest, from flower to fruit, it takes at least 5 to 10 months for avocado. And avocado fruits do not ripen on the tree, as most of us know. You have to pick it and put it to ripe. Once a fruit is mature, it should take at least 2 to 7 days to ripe properly. And fruit picked too early, though, are of inferior quality and may not even ripe, or may not ripe properly. At maturity, how can you tell an avocado is ready? Well, the skin color becomes more yellowish to green, and the fruit tend to lose the sheen there and becomes dull in appearance. And to determine whether or not your avocado fruit is mature and ready to harvest, you don't have to harvest all of them at the one time. You could harvest 1 or 2 fruits, put them to ripe, and see how long it takes for that fruit to ripe. If the fruit ripe between 2 to 7 days, then you know you can harvest the majority of those fruits. In terms of uses, avocado are used in many ways, and avocado are used in salads to make guacamole, to make dips, to make appetizers, sandwiches, soups, salads, and salad dressing. Avocado is used as facial masks. They're used in shampoos, as skincare products. It's also used as hair care products. So avocado have quite a variety of use, but for me, again, I like to eat avocado just like I eat a mango, just take a slice of avocado, a slice of 2 avocado and consume it just like that. Okay, so that's it in terms of avocado presentation today and avocado production. And if there are any questions that you may have, I'm willing to answer.
Any questions, anyone? Anyone?
I got one. Can I?
Just go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering, is there any specific variety that do good in Croix, but not Thomas or St. John's? I mean.
Okay, we have a reverberation. You're not coming straight at all. Could you repeat the question?
Is there any specific variety that do well in one?
Okay, we have another technical difficulties here. Dr. Adamo, you still there? Yeah, I can't hear you. I'm seeing your mouth moving, but I can't hear you at all.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Beautiful, I could hear you now.
Okay, I was wondering with regard to the variety of the avocados, is there any one that do well in St. Croix, but not in St. Thomas, or the other way?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know if there's any variety that does well on one island and not so well on the other island. They may be, but I think most of the varieties that are grown on St. Thomas are similarly grown on St. Croix. So, but I don't know if there's one that does exceptionally well on alternate island.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
There's a question in the chat from Ayala. Good afternoon.
Yeah, the question that says, how do you know the difference between the types A and type B? Well, that's something that's determined by researchers, and there's a listing to determine whether or not you have an A or B type. You could check the literature, you could go online and check. There are a lot of nurseries that sell avocado. They have a listing that it would tell you which avocados are A type and which ones are B type. And you could just Google and avocado types, flowering types, and you could see which ones are A and B type. In the presentation, there was a list provided of the various types, and I'm pretty certain you could contact the extension service, the cooperative extension service, and they would give you some ideas to which varieties are A types and which are B types.
And I see people raising their hands. They can type their questions in the chat, and we'll be reading them out.
There was another question that was asked. Actually, they sent it privately by mistake, I believe, by J.O. It says, what can I do to prevent deers from destroying my avocado?
Well, what I like to do, I like to say, first of all, I like to say welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. I tell you what, they love avocado. And my UVI extension colleague and I, we fight there on a daily basis. What we do is there's an entity, a business that makes a lot of money from us because we purchase wire we purchase wire regularly to encircle the trees. They love the foliage, which is the leaves, and they also love the fruits. And they love avocado. We fight a battle daily. We have purchased wire, make an enclosure to enclose the small tree. But once the tree gets a little bigger, You could remove that enclosure, because as the tree grows, the barrier restricts the growth. But even after you remove the barrier and the tree produce fruits, they still walk around the tree and eat your avocado because they really love avocados. So for me, it's a problem because I love avocado, but I don't love their meat. But yeah, it's really a problem here in St. Croix. We have a lot of this, so we have a big problem with this concern and avocado production.
And there was a question right before that from Naima. Where do you get branches of desirable varieties for grafting?
That's a good question too. And let me just, we're not talking about mangoes, but I'll just say that at the Department of Agriculture, there are over 40 different varieties of mangoes for the public, because that's what those trees are planted for persons who want different varieties. You could go down there and acquire them. But when it comes to avocado, you might just have to check friends and family and that type of stuff, because there's no one central location where you could go and acquire avocado varieties. But I think if you could check with the Extension Service, again, I'm putting all the work on Mr. Crossman. I think Mr. Crossman knows of persons who have various avocado varieties, and I'm going to put him in trouble here now, and I'm going to get chastised for it. But Mr. Crossman has quite a few varieties also. And again, he's that type of person. I know he'll be willing and able to make them available. And I do too have quite a number of varieties, and I'm always willing and able and willing to share the varieties that I have. So persons may contact me, and you may check with the Extension Service. They will provide you my email and phone number, and I'll be totally happy to share the varieties that I have with anyone who is interested.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Chichester, for your wonderful presentation and answering the questions. And you mentioned Mr. Crossman's name, and this is a good lead into our next workshop. We are going to have a workshop done by Mr. Crossman, who is our Associate Director here at the School of Agriculture Cooperative Extension Service. And so let's just give him a wonderful welcome. Even though you can't, you could just do some snaps just to welcome him. Thank you.
We're having a few technical difficulties. Give us one moment and the file will be shared.
Can any other questions be responded to in the meantime? Those were in the chat.
If there are any, while they're doing that, I could answer whatever other questions that anyone may have. Just checking the chat. I don't think there's any other question in the chat.
Yeah, there was about 3 of them. Is Epsom salts good as fertilizer? Can an avocado tree grow in a large pot? And are you suggesting that you plant 2 trees to get fruit? So Epsom salt, fertilizer, avocado tree, large pot, and I'm not sure what the last question is asking.
Yeah, well, yeah, Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, and um, I'm not certain whether or not Epsom salt would help avocado, but where hibiscus is concerned, I know magnesium sulfate aids in flower production. I have not used magnesium sulfate or Epsom salts in avocado for avocado production. As it pertains to planting avocado in pots, yes, avocado could be planted in a big pot. However, you could plant an avocado in a big pot and you don't necessarily have to plant 2 because your neighbor may have a tree and hopefully that type is of the opposite type and the flower could come from that particular tree. The pollen, that is, you don't necessarily have to plant 2 of the 2 different type if your neighbor has a avocado tree. Remember, now pollen is very, very small and the wind could blow the pollen or the bees could go to your neighbor's place and come over to your place. So that's how avocado operates. And I can't recall what the third question was.
The third question was related to planting. I'll just read it out. It says, question, are you suggesting that you plant 2 trees to get fruit?
As I just indicated, you could plant 1 tree. If you have the space, 2 is ideal. You wouldn't have to depend on your neighbor, those in your surroundings to provide the pollen for your tree. And if you plant 2 trees, then you know definitely you're planting both types, but you don't know what your neighbor tree is, whether it's an A type or B type, whether it's compatible to yours. So if you have the space, I would say 101% yes, go ahead and plant 2 types, A and B type. If you plant 1 type, no, you'll get production. But if you plant 2 types, A and B, you'll get significantly more fruits. Okay. And I don't know if the Mr. Crossman's presentation is ready, so I'll just stop for now. If not, I'll continue.
Ray J, or actually they can, I guess they can interrupt us if so. There are about 2 more questions. There's a follow-up to the question about the deer.
Yes.
Is there a monthly limit to killing? A monthly limit to shooting deer?
I don't know, because a group of us had gotten some assistance from USDA and to cull some of the deer population. That was done through an application, a request made to DPNR, which was approved for culling of deers. As you know, deer is protected or in particular areas, but anyone who needs to take action where there's concern as it pertains to shooting of deer, you need to get a permit from DPNR, and that it'll be possible to call some of the deer in your particular area. But they're around 12 months a year, 13 months a year. They're around. They just right now there's so much weeds, there's so much grass, but they're still visiting with the farmers and taking advantage. You know, it's just it's amazing to see there's so much food out there. But they love avocado, they love mango, they love sorrel, they love sweet potato, and I guess they love what you plant because they live in the hillsides and coming down to your farm or your orchard and taking advantage. But
yes, we are ready with the presentation. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Stafford Crossman. I am the Associate Director for the Extension Service at the University of the Virgin Islands. Welcome to this presentation on cucumber production for World Food Day 2020. Cucumber has been selected as one of the feature crops for this year's observance. Cucumber belongs to the Cucurbitaceae family, also called vine crops, which includes other crops such as melon, squash, and pumpkin. When starting your cucumber crop, you can do so by direct seeding or transplanting. The seeds germinate in 3 days under good conditions. The spacing between rows is 1 foot, and between rows it can be 3 to 4 feet, depending upon your preference. A benefit of direct seeding is that the plants have a better root system. The seeds are sown and germinate in the location, and they remain there during the entire production time. A disadvantage is that weed control can become challenging. The same time germinating, so are weed seeds, and controlling the weeds around the cucumber seedlings can create some challenges, sometimes resulting in damage to the cucumber seedlings themselves. Something else to consider is that most seeds are used. 100% germination is not guaranteed, and the recommendation is normally to sow at least 2 seeds at each location, and if it turns out that you get a really good germination of the seeds, then you might have to thin some of them out. For transplanting, this is done under controlled conditions, normally in a greenhouse or a shade house, and provides superior seedling management and allows you to select the best seedlings for transplanting. You should transplant during the late afternoon or on a cloudy day, and select your best looking seedlings and handle them carefully and transplant them into well-prepared soil. Remember that the plants are subjected to shock even when transplanted under the most favorable condition, and the recommendation is to harden the seedlings off, which means to expose them to conditions other than what you have in your controlled environment to prepare them for going out into full sun. And one of the things that is done is to expose them to full sun for periods of time during the day. You should irrigate immediately after transplanting. As the plants are growing, provide them with adequate water, and micro-irrigation is what is recommended. Do not allow your plants to become moisture stressed. Keep your plants well fertilized. Choose the fertilizer of your preference, whether it is water-soluble, granular, or slow release. And the fertilizer, again, based upon your choice, it can be organic or synthetic. The plant goes through vegetative root stage. The first stage is the plant remaining upright. During this stage, side shoots begin to emerge from the leaf axil, and if you look at the top photo, you can see where the leaf axil on the plants are located, and this is where the side shoots will come out. The main leader continues to grow, and the side shoots will also be growing until the weight of the plants cause them to flop down. The vines can be allowed to grow on the ground, or they can be supported on a trellis system. If you're using the trellis system, then it will have to be put in place during the upright growth stage of the plant so that when support is needed for the plant, the system is already there to support the weight when the plant flops over. The vines will continue growing, and later the plants get to the reproductive stage and begin to flower. For flowering habits, you have monoecious types of plants, and these plants produce both male and female flowers. The top flower, the top photo shows a male flower, and the bottom shows a female flower. And you can tell the difference between both types of flowers by the ovary at the bottom of the female flower. And the middle photo shows the two types of flowers side by side, and you can see the difference. The monoecious type produce male flowers only at first, then later on they produce both male and female flowers. Then there's a short phase of mostly female flowers. The other type of flowering habits is the dioecious type, and only female flowers are produced. These plants mature earlier, they produce high yields, and they have a concentrated fruit set, which means that a lot of fruits are produced in a short period of time. These plants are more productive because no energy is used to produce male flowers. If you're growing using this type of variety, you do not have to worry about providing pollen because the seed company includes male pollinator seeds mixed in with the seeds of these types. For pollination, both male and female flowers must be present. The pollen from the male flowers fertilize the ovules in the female flowers, and these are the most common pollinators. Wet, cool conditions reduce bee activity and cause poor fruit set. If you are applying insecticides, do so late in the day when there is little or no bee activity, because these insecticides might have an effect on the bees. Fruit development depends on an adequate number of fertilized seeds within the fruit. Without enough fertilized seeds, the fruits will abort or become misshapen, as shown in the photos on this slide. Look on the seed packet or in the seed catalog for the days to maturity. And if you are doing transplants, you can subtract 7 days from that number, 7 to 10 days, and this covers the period of time between when the seeds were sown and actually transplanted into the field. And the information on this slide from a seed catalog, what is highlighted are the days to maturity for the varieties that are listed. And if you look at the column adjacent, you will also see the flowering habit where you see MORGY indicating the flowering habit of the varieties. You should maintain good leaf health through proper plant management, and this includes irrigation, plant nutrition, and pest management. The leaves are needed to shade the fruits from direct sunlight. Too much direct sunlight on the fruits can cause sun scald, as seen in the photo at the bottom. Harvesting can be done at almost any stage. You pick the fruits at the size that you desire. Fruits with immature seeds are preferred. Do not allow the fruits to turn yellow on the vine. Yellow fruits are overly mature, too seedy, and they may taste bitter. Cucumber requires regular picking. Every other day is recommended to get maximum production and quality. And in some instances, the plant may cease production of fruits if they are allowed to overmature on the vine. Wind can cause damage to your plants, especially high winds. You can have abrasion injury, something like what is seen on the slide, and this is normally by the leaves above rubbing on the top of the leaves. Below, you can have wind whipping where the leaves are just blown from side to side, and in some instances, they get broken off the plant. And wind also causes increase in water loss, and this is water loss from the soil and also water loss from the leaves of the plant. For cucumber pest problems, start with selecting varieties that are disease resistant and tolerant. This is very beneficial for your production and disease problems that you might encounter. Very important to monitor your plants regularly for pests. Employ an integrated pest management strategy. For more information about IPM, contact Dr. Amy Dreves, our pest management specialist at Cooperative Extension Service. Her number is 340-692-4052. I mentioned disease resistance earlier, and this again is the same slide that was shown earlier. This time I have highlighted disease resistance. This is a very important strategy to use, and you can see again the varieties that are listed and the abbreviations for the diseases that each variety is resistant to. And normally in the catalog, you will also find the codes for the abbreviations, and you also look at that to figure out what the diseases are if you are not familiar with the abbreviations. One of the main problems in growing cucumbers is the melon worm. And this is a very destructive pest. It is important that you detect it early so that you can manage this pest. Normally, if the pest population gets too high, it is very difficult to control. And if it gets out of hand, within a matter of days, you will be wondering, where did your plants disappear to? The best method is to look at the bottom of the leaves and also look at the terminal end of the vines in the very young leaves. Just open them a little bit, and if they are there, you will see some very tiny worms. Again, the important thing, detect them early and begin your management strategy. Another major pest that affects cucumber is a disease called downy mildew. This is a fungal disease. It caused a very drastic reduction in local cucumber production a few years ago, but due to some research that was done and selection based again on disease resistance of the variety, we are now seeing a resurgence in the amount of cucumbers grown by our local farmers. The types of cucumber fruits that we have are the slicing types, and these are the long, thin, solid green ones that you normally see in the supermarkets. And the other type is the pickling type, and this is the type that is grown normally by the local farmers and preferred by residents. Here is a page from a catalog, and I am showing this because for the variety Citadel, because this is the variety of the seedlings that have been distributed this year. And so if you got seedlings, this is the one that you will be growing. And so you can see the diseases that this variety is resistant to. And importantly listed is downy mildew, and other information that I have highlighted are the days to maturity and the flowering habit. So thank you very much, and I wish you success in growing your cucumbers. Again, you can always call the extension service if you need additional information or technical assistance. Thank you.
Okay, and now there'll be about 5 minutes for question and answer. And presenters can answer any additional questions beyond that in the chat, should they choose to, or they can place their contact information in the chat. Last resort, you can contact Extension Service, Mr. Clavier, at 340-692-4090, and I'm going to place that information in the chat for you all as well. Are there any questions for?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you for the information, very good information. My question is, talk about producing your own seeds from your own grown cucumbers, and also what type of fertilizer is best for cucumbers.
Okay, now most of the varieties that are grown are hybrid varieties, and just as was mentioned with the avocado, it is, if you plant the seeds from hybrid varieties, you are not going to get back that same thing. You will get something else. There are some of the older varieties that are called heirloom varieties that come back true to type, but most of the cucumbers being grown are hybrid varieties, and seeds from them will not come back to the cucumber that you had. You will get all types of variations, and some people like to do it, but it's not a recommended practice.
Okay, from my understanding, you wait until the fruit turns yellow, and then you get the seeds from them. Is that right?
I mean, for the seeds, yes. Normally, I mentioned in presentation that for eating purposes, you really do not want to have the fruit until the seeds are mature. But if you're saving for seeds, yes, you want the seeds to mature if you're going to save them for planting. But again, I will say, for hybrid varieties, it is not recommended that you plant the seeds from the fruit.
Okay, and the best fertilizer in terms of is pH, phosphorus, potassium, and
I did not go into the detail about fertilizer because it depends on where you are growing and what you're growing your plants in.
Okay.
Actually, to make a proper recommendation for fertilizer, you should actually have your soil or your growing media tested, so you actually know what nutrients are in the soil and which ones you have to provide supplement for. But in the absence of a soil test result, to cover yourself, it is best to use what we refer to as a complete fertilizer that has the NPK, the commonly nutrients that are needed in high quantities. So normally you take a 10, 10, 10, 15, 15, 15, 20, 20, 20. Now you're doing this without the soil test, you can be looking at your plants and seeing what is happening, if that is working, or you can call for technical assistance if you're having problems.
All right, and you have a few questions in the chat as well. Judith.
I saw something about turmeric mixture.
There's one right above that too.
Okay.
Info also applicable to zucchini. That's the first one.
Well, for the most part, it is in the same family. So some of the things are applicable, but not everything. But it's in the same family, yes. For turmeric mixture, I am not familiar with it, and so I don't know how it works. I know they are. Somebody saying something?
You're muted, Mr. Cross.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, for the turmeric mixture, I will say if you're using it and you find that it's working, I'm not familiar with it, so I cannot make a comment. There are homemade remedies that persons try, and I say if you're trying it and it works for you, then go ahead, but I'm not familiar with the turmeric mixture.
The next one under that was about...
Yes. How do you manage melon worms? The best way to manage melon worms is to start early. Start examining your plants very early. As soon as they germinate, even when they're in the upright stage, start looking at them. Main place to look, the worms are initially not obvious because of where they are. They are normally on the bottom of the leaves, or they are at the terminal end of the vine, and you actually have to gently open because you don't want to break off those very young leaves. But that's where you have to look, and you will see the very tiny worms there. And as soon as you see that they are there, you employ whatever your management strategy is going to be. It depends on how many plants that you have. If it's just a few plants and you think you can just squash the worms with between your fingers, then you can start by doing that. If you have many plants and you need to apply something else, one of the most commonly recommended product is in the BT, Bacillus thuringiensis. There are products that go by a number of names. One of the most common ones is Dipel. But if you go to your garden store, just ask for a BT product. It's an organic product, but you have to start your pest management when the populations are low. If you get a high infestation of melon worms on your plants, it is extremely difficult and sometimes impossible to get them under control after that. The question about the cucumber with only female flowers, yes, the variety, my understanding is that the variety that is given out is Citadel, and so that is a variety that produces only female flowers. Okay. Okay, Captain Jack, yes, spinosad. Tuicide is another name for another name, but it's the same. Yes, so just ask for, there are different names. Just ask for a BT product to control worms. That works best, but you got to get to them early.
Okay, if there's no more questions, thank you, Mr. Crossman, for the information. Before we move into our next presenter, first want to mention that if you have not sent your contact information, which is your email and phone number, in the chat, go ahead and do so. Send me a private chat. Look for my name in the chat, AJ Joseph, and you just want to send me a private chat with your contact information, which is your email and your phone number. This is so that you will be given additional seedlings when we are getting ready to give those out in the near future. Okay, moving into our next presenter, I would like to introduce to you all Ms. Sue Lakos. She is a research analyst here at the University of the Virgin Islands School of Agriculture, Agricultural Experiment Station, and she will be talking today about pig production in the Virgin Islands. Ms. Lakos?
Good afternoon and welcome to World Food Day 2020. Today's presentation will be on pig production, also known as swine production, but we're doing it on a small scale. My name is Sue Lakos. I'm the research analyst for the University of the Virgin Islands, and I will be your guide on this wonderful adventure today. Raising pigs, it can be a very rewarding experience and provide a very good source of protein for the family. Given the proper attention, pigs can successfully be raised in a small area. With the high meat prices these days, a family can benefit by raising a few pigs to cut down on their meat bill. They might even have a few pounds of meat to sell for extra income. Some people believe that pigs were the earliest animal to be domesticated, not even the cat or the dog. The paintings and carvings of pigs have been found that are over 25,000 years old. The Chinese domesticated pigs 7,000 years ago. Hogs, which is another name for pigs, have been condemned and idolized throughout history and Bible. They have also been one of agriculture's best income sources. But best of all, they are a very good source of protein. Raising pigs on a small scale can be interesting and a fun hobby, and also a good learning experience. Pigs are very intelligent and can even become pets. They grow quite rapidly, from 3 pounds at birth to up to 225 pounds at 6 months when they are ready for market. Despite what a lot of people think, pigs are not dirty animals. They will be very clean if you care for them properly. They do not need fancy facilities, but pigs should never be allowed to live in a muddy swamp. They really don't need that. Now, before you get into raising pigs, you need to ask yourself a few questions. First of all, can I keep pigs in my neighborhood? Then what type of pig operation should I have? Where do I source my pigs? What breed of pigs should I raise? What type of housing is best? What should I feed my pigs? And then the ultimate question, how do I turn my pigs from pig to pork chop or lechon? First question, can I keep pigs in my neighborhood? Most residential neighborhoods will not allow the raising of livestock, not just pigs, but any livestock. Before you invest in a swine operation, be sure to check your zoning restrictions in regards to this area. You don't want to invest the money into putting in a pig facility only to find out later that it can't be there. You want to avoid complaints about unpleasant odors, so do not locate your pig facility within 50 feet of your home or neighboring residences. Then you want to think about what type of pig operation should I have. There are two different kinds. One is the farrow to finish, and farrowing is the actual act of having the babies. So farrow to finish, the farmer raises their stock from the moment they're born until they're sent to market. Now, the pros of this kind of operation is that your replacement animals come from within your farm. You don't have to rely on anyone for animals. You never have to be concerned about the availability of replacements. The farmer, you, has more control over the quality of the animals in the herd. You can pick and choose what you want to keep. Now, the cons to this kind of an operation, it's a larger, more diversified operation, so you need a larger, more diversified housing plan. This farm requires much more intensive management because you've got the breeding animals to worry about. You must also keep a breeding boar on the farm, and if you do not have proper facilities, boars can be dangerous, and so you want to be careful with that. And you also need a couple of different multiple nutrition plans for these pigs because they're different stages of life. The other type of operation is finishing only. And in this type of operation, the farmer purchases their stock from other breeders and raises them from weaning until market. The pros of this plan, it utilizes a simpler housing plan. It's a single feed formulation. You have one feed formulation from beginning to end. You don't need to worry about breeding management, how to care for the sows, where to keep the boar, what you need to do with the babies. The replacement animals also can be selected to meet the needs. You purchase what you need. You don't have any extras for what you have to figure out to do with them. The cons to this operation, the stock is limited to what is available on the market. You don't always have as big of a choice. You have to take what's there and choose from what's there. And if there's not any there, you can't get any. So replacements may not be readily available when you need them. Making babies, like I said, this is called farrowing. If you choose to have a farrow to finish operation, there are a few facts you do need to know. Gilts, which are the young female pigs, normally reach the age of puberty at 6 to 8 months of age under good feed conditions. At this time, they are ready to be bred. Heats will occur every 21 days unless the female is bred. Gestation, another word for pregnancy, normally lasts 116 days, but it's easier to remember by saying it's 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. At that point in time, when she has her pigs, she will have full litters. We like to see 5 to 7 litters and up to 14 or litters, piglets, 7 to 10, up to 14 pigs in the litter. Pregnant sows do need extra nutrition during the pregnancy to ensure a healthy litter. Sows also need plenty of exercise and protection from the heat. Some pigsties have actually installed showers for the girls to keep them cool. Pens should be fitted with a structure to make sure that the mother does not lay on her piglets. Sometimes sows get very careless when they lay back down, and they've been known to lay on top of their pigs and suffocate them. You don't want her to be able to do that. So they usually fit the pens with what they call a farrowing bar so that she can't lay down on top of little pigs as easily. Now, bringing up baby, you've got a whole different set of rules when you have the baby pigs. New piglets are very, very critical to take care of them properly. They need to have their needle teeth clipped, which are their canine teeth, shortly after birth. The teeth are very, very sharp. That's why they're called needle teeth. And they can cause injury to the sow when they're trying to nurse, or litter mates if they're allowed to stay on the pig. So we need to clip them. It's a very simple procedure. The vets can help you with that. It's relatively painless for the pigs. They'll squeal and holler, but it's just because they don't like being held on to. Baby pigs raised on concrete also need to have iron shots to maintain good health. They tend to be iron deficient, and in order to maintain peak health, they need to have their iron shots. Baby pigs intended for meat production should be castrated between 1 and 21 days of age. The younger they are, the easier it is to do. It makes for easier management because you don't have to deal with trying to keep the little male pigs away from the little female pigs, because they will do what comes naturally. And so they should be castrated at the same time the needle teeth are cut. Piglets should be identified using either ear tags or ear notching. As you can see right here, we've got notches in the pig's ear, and there's actually a pattern to it where you can actually see what number piglet in what litter these are. So they are permanent identifications that aren't extra tags that are on the pigs that could be caught on something or chewed on by other pigs. These are notches that go in the ear. And also, we need to remember piglets need to be on their mother's milk for about 8 weeks. At that point, they can be weaned. We don't want to wean them earlier because they need to have the benefit of the mother's nutrition, her milk, in order to grow big and strong. Now, where do I get my pigs? You might be asking yourself, I want to raise pigs, but where do I get them? Unless you want to incur the expense of importing breeding stock, pigs need to be sourced from other breeders here on island. Breeders will sell weaned piglets for feeding for about 8 weeks of age, sometimes older. You can go out and source your pigs there and bring them home. These are known as feeder pigs, and they will grow to 200 up to 500 pounds for slaughter by 5 to 7 months of age, depending on the pig itself and with the proper care and nutrition. Breeding pigs can also be purchased from these sellers. Breeder pigs should weigh between 35 and 50 pounds at purchase in order to determine suitability for breeding. You need them a little bit bigger so you make sure that everything is the way it should be and there are no problems with the pig. Any purchased stock should be healthy. You don't want to buy a problem and think you can fix it. It doesn't work that way. Now, what breeder pigs should I raise? Well, the most common pig raised in the Virgin Islands is the crossbred. Crossbred sows and gilts, the young females, are better mothers. They are less expensive, and their litters yield extremely fast growth. The most common breed of purebred pigs in the Virgin Islands are the Duroc, the Hampshire, and the Yorkshire pig. Now, the Duroc pig, they're the big red pig that you see around with the droopy ears. They can range from a very light golden, almost yellow color to a very dark mahogany red. They are actually the second most recorded breed in the United States, and they're very common down here in the Virgin Islands. The Hampshire pig, and they're very recognizable, They are the black pigs with a white belt around their middle. They have erect ears that stand up, they don't droop down, and they're a heavily muscled, lean meat breed. Yorkshire pig is white in color with the erect ears again. They're a very long, sturdy pig. They're the most recorded breed of swine in the United States, which means that they are the most commonly raised purebred breed of pig. They're very muscular with a high proportion of lean meat and low back fat, and they're very sound and durable. These three breeds of pigs are the most common here in the Virgin Islands and the most commonly used to produce the crossbreds that we find so beneficial to the pig industry. Now you've got your pigs, but before you bring them home, you need to know what kind of housing are you going to put them in? What type of housing is best? Now the housing for pigs is referred to as a sty. A sty should provide at a bare minimum shelter, a shady spot, good tight fencing, feed trough, and a waterer. In the US Virgin Islands, pigs should be kept in a concrete floor so that sanitation can be easily maintained. Dirt floors can house your parasites and bacteria that can cause pigs to not be as healthy and not grow as well. So we want to keep them on a concrete floor. That is the easiest to clean. Running water is essential to keep that clean. You want to be able to hose it down and wipe it off, or hose it off and keep it nice and sanitary for the pigs. And also when you build your sties, again, locate at least 50 feet from human housing areas because of the smell and the possibility of contamination. Now here's an example of a regular feeder swine house with a concrete floor. You'll notice that it's just a single compartment for each group of pigs, and you want to keep them separated by age. You really don't want baby pigs or young pigs in with the big old pigs. That's why you have several different stations, but they're all equipped with your shelter. Here, it provides shelter from the rain and the sun. They've got waterers in each pen, and they've got feeders in each pen. And the fences are good and tight. Pigs tend to push through fences, and so you want to make sure you have a good fence to keep them in place where they belong. Now, if you get into a farrow and finish operation, and this one, you will notice there's this little wiggly spot right in the middle here, and that's because you can make this barn as big or small as you need. You have pens for your sows. Each sow has her own pen. You've got pens down here for the boars to keep in them. And these are 10 foot by 10 foot, is big enough for one pig. You have weaning and holding pens, so when you wean your babies, you can put them down here with an office and feed storage down here. There's an alley down the middle, so you can do all your stuff under the shade in the middle. This is all under one big roof. And then when you hose them down, these troughs on the side are gutters that you wash the pen from here, from the water spigots down. Everything washes down here, goes down around and out to wherever you are collecting the waste. And that can be farther away from the buildings, in fact, so that the smell doesn't bother anyone. And so it maintains sanitation. You see the red diagonal here, that's your farrowing bar, so that when the pig lays down, she won't lay on top of the little pigs. There's feeders, there's waterers in each pen, and it can be as elaborate or as simple as you want it. We recommend, again, concrete floors, concrete block walls, because pigs will chew. And the pen walls should be 4 foot tall so that the animals can't get out of them. And you can actually, if you're not doing individual breeding, you can have bigger pens and keep multiple sows in the pens together. You just don't want them together when they're having their babies, because they get very cramped, and then you can end up with problems with attitudes with pigs, and some sows killing another sow's babies and all. So you want to be very careful with that. But you can make this as elaborate or as simple as you want to. Now, what do you need to feed your pigs? Pigs have digestive systems that are the same as humans, believe it or not. So the food that you feed them should always be clean, free from mold and bugs, and wholesome. Commercial feed made from grains will yield about 1 pound of gain for every 4 pounds of feed. They're very efficient at conversion. But some people want to supplement that with other foods. Alternatively, pigs may be fed a diet that includes edible refuse from the home, the garden, supermarkets, or restaurants. It is extremely important that these feeds be cooked to ensure that there are no bacteria or other organisms in the food that can cause illness. You don't want to give your pigs food poisoning. It's very easy to do, so scraps should be boiled for a minimum of 30 minutes to achieve this goal. Feed of this kind should always be fresh. Scraps left sitting around, they can start to mold and will start to smell. That's always unpleasant, and we don't want it to spoil. In addition, you want to make sure that these foodstuffs don't contain any glass, tin cans, plastic, or silverware. You don't want them trying to eat that, and they will, and then they can get very sick. And they should always, always, always have access to fresh and clean water. Now, the ultimate question, how do I turn my pigs from pig to pork chop? They're not easy for ordinary folks to butcher, so most people choose to have the actual slaughter done at the abattoir. And we have a local abattoir that is functioning nicely to do this. They will kill, dehair, and clean the pig for you and clean up the mess afterwards, all for a very reasonable price. I think they're charging right now, they're charging about $25 to butcher a pig. That's not bad at all. The inspector on site will ensure that the meat is healthy and wholesome. All you need to do is pick it up, take it home, and have dinner. Now, closing thoughts. Healthcare, remember, healthcare of your pigs is extremely important. An unhealthy pig will not grow or perform effectively. Never hesitate to contact your local veterinarian with any questions or concerns. Better to not need the vet when you call them than to need the vet and not call them. Pigs can get very sick and then they die and then your investment is done. So if you have any more questions or need more information about starting up a pig project, we're ready to answer them here and now. However, you can also contact your local cooperative extension service at the University of the Virgin Islands, 340-692-4060 at any point in time, and they will field the question or put you in contact with someone who can answer them. So I thank you for watching today, and any questions?
Okay, as we wait for questions in the chat, just wanted to make the announcement one more time. If you would like any additional seedlings, please send your contact information, your email, and your phone number in the Zoom chat. Send it to me privately. If you don't know how to do so, that's fine. Just send it anyway. But if you can send it to me privately, my name is Ray J. Joseph, as you can see on the screen. So just send your contact information privately to me, and we will have the seedlings ready for distribution in the near future. Is there any questions from Ms. Suleikos? You would also want to send those in the chat as well if you have any questions for her. I don't see any at this time.
I got a hand question. Can I?
I'm here.
Yeah, I think my question to you is with regard to the type of operations that we have in the Virgin Island. Which one that is most common, the farrow to finish or the finishing type? Which one?
Most people are doing farrow to finish on a very small scale. They'll only have 1 or 2 sows, which that's perfectly good. The feeder to finish is a problem just because trying to get stock. But then there's some people that they just want to raise a single pig in their backyard and then send it to butcher, and then it'll be a 1 pig operation basically. If they don't want to mess with the problems of having to get the sow bred, having to get the sow through pregnancy, having the babies, dealing with the babies. They want to just bring a small pig in and like I said, raise it up and then have it as a finished product.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any more questions?
No, I don't see any more at this time. Just a few people congratulating you on your in the chat, saying excellent presentation and thank you for providing information.
No problem. Hope everybody is going home then and having their lechon or pork chops.
Yeah, I have one more question for you, Sue.
Okay.
With regard to the market, how did you see this industry, you know, in the budget? Is it something that is growing or not really?
Right now, any livestock industry in the Virgin Islands is very tough call right now. It's a problem with zoning and just facilities. Our abattoir was down for many months. They're just getting back up operational now. So a lot of farmers that were in the business have had to step back and reevaluate because they were raising product and they had no place to go with it. So now that it's back up in operation, there are farmers that are getting back started into this. Pork has always been very integral in West Indian culture. We love our pork chops. We love our lechon. We love our spare ribs. And everybody thinks it's very difficult to raise these animals. We have our work cut out for us to convince people that this is something they need to do. But again, with our zoning and everything, that can be a very difficult problem because now many people live in neighborhoods or they live in projects that, well, definitely in the projects, you cannot raise pigs. And because it is a specialized facility, it's difficult for a lot of people. And the fact that the old way of raising pigs is how the pigs got the reputation of being unclean. They were raised in muddy pits, basically, not realizing that the reason the pigs want mud is because they don't have sweat glands and they keep the mud to keep the flies off and to keep cool. A lot of these pig farmers do not have concrete floors and they think it's very expensive to build, but they last forever and ever, basically. But the concrete floors are essential and running water is essential to keep the pigs clean and healthy. And once that is in place, like I said, it's long lasting. It's an investment for the future. But then our pork is also much more healthy, healthful, and it's clean because they aren't picking up all of the parasites and all of the bacteria and everything that can come from being in the mud.
Okay, thank you, Sue.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to all of the other presenters. Thank you, participants, for taking the time to be involved in our observance today, particularly in the workshop. I hope that the information shared with you was useful and you will put it into practice. And remember, you can always contact the Extension Service if you have additional questions or need more information. Ray J. Oh, one more thing about the seedlings. Those of you participants, if you're interested in getting seedlings, I guess before the chat closes, please send your information to Mr. Joseph. We are going to have this distribution of these seedlings as soon as we can compile the list of the persons who are supposed to get them. You know, normally after each workshop, you would have just stepped over on the other side of the Great Hall and gotten your seedlings. So since we are not able to do that this year, we are going to set up another distribution of seedlings, but it's just for the persons who were in the workshops. And as soon as we have the information put together, we will be contacting you and set up the time for you to get them. So thank you very much.
Thank you again, Mr. Crossman. And thank you all for joining us today. And as we close out, the chat will still be open for anyone who hasn't put in their contact information who wants additional seedlings. So there will still be time now to do so if you haven't done so. And as we close out, I will be playing once again the selection on agriculture by Kiosha Quinn.
And Ray J, just to mention for those who are looking for the recording, in the chat is the link to the Facebook recording that's available immediately for those that want to rewatch this. It's also available on our website, ces.uvi.edu.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Agriculture